Hey guys, my name is Caya. I'm the founder of a company called Slidebean. And one of the riskiest things about being an entrepreneur and starting your own company is figuring out if your business idea makes sense, if your value proposition makes sense, if people are eventually going to buy your product or your service. And there are ways to do that that are simpler and easier and faster and cheaper than just developing a whole product from scratch just to see what happens. And that's a little bit of what we want to talk about today. Validating your business idea with a simple, fast MVP. So a little bit before that, just wanted to share what Slidebean is in case you have no idea. We started our journey as a presentation company, looking very naively to replace PowerPoint. Eventually, refocused into a platform to help startups navigate their first approach of raising money, and even not raising money, just company, we dedicated to helping founders navigate the journey of starting a business. Again, raising money is an optional part of that. So we help them with financial models, and we help them with expense tracking and a bunch of other tools, expert networks, as we just aid them in that journey. So MVP officially stands for minimum viable product. It's really the minimum thing that you can build to test your value proposition. And sometimes if you're developing an app, you might think that building the app is an MVP, but not necessarily. An MVP could be a website, could be a landing page to see if people would click on the download button, or a landing page to see if people would click on the sign up button. It could be a newsletter just to get people to subscribe. It could be a Facebook page for that matter. So anything that you can do to test if what you're building is what you should be building, is something that people are going to buy, that is what I would consider an MVP. So I see this problem a lot, and the traditional approach to building a company might be running a market study, or it could be building a perfect, quote unquote, perfect product and launching it and not letting anybody see it until it's perfect. So that is not a great approach for startups. And this philosophy that we abide by is called the lean startup. And the idea here is building something very, very basic, again, just to test those value propositions. The goal is just validating your company, validating your product, validating if what you're going to build is going in the right direction. Again, building a product, building an app could take months. That means that it's costing you tens of thousands of dollars at the very least, just in your time and cost of living and whatever. Even more if the product is more complex. So you don't want to spend that money unless you're pretty sure that people are going to want this. And you can ask people, and that's a valid way to test if the product that you're building is interesting to them. But the real way to test it is to have something that people think is real. There's a story of this company that wanted to do kind of like supermarket deliveries, and instead of building a whole, this was way before the Fresh Directs and the Instacarts. Before building any product, they just started offering people, housewives, to go do their shopping and charge them a fee. And then that is an MVP, even if it's manual, even if it's not scalable. One of my favorite MVP examples is Airbnb. So when the guys from Airbnb launched the platform, they were figuring out if people would. What do you have to figure out if you're building Airbnb? You have to figure out if people are willing to stay at a stranger's house instead of a hotel, and you have to figure out if strangers are willing to rent their houses out, right? But how do you build this? How do you get this to test? It's tough, right? Because you have to actually build a platform and get people to sign up and to share their house. So the guys from Airbnb, what they did is they actually rented their own couch, their own living room as an Airbnb room. That was the first one. And that is a way, an MVP, that is a way to test if people are willing to stay at a stranger's house. Also a way to test if they can market this product and sell this product. So that's the idea for an MVP. Yeah, our MVP was just a landing page with a video. So we made an explainer video showing how Slidebean worked when in reality, it was a video showing how Slidebean would work. We hadn't written a single line of code. We had no idea how the platform was going to be built in the back end. We had the team to build it, but we just didn't know what the platform was going to be. So, and how the interface was going to look. So we figured it was just cheaper, faster to make a video explaining how this non-existing product worked. And the video spoke in the past. We talked about how this product works, like how we built this functionality rather than saying how we were going to build it. And that worked out pretty well. We put it on a landing page, pushed some traffic to it, and figured out if people were willing to sign up, meaning if people were willing to sign up for this product. That it's a presentation product. If they're doing presentations, they're already using PowerPoint. But the question was, are they willing to sign up for this alternative product? And that's what we learned from the MVP. The usual way to do it is to find the riskiest assumption in your business. So you might have a bunch of assumptions. Let's say, I'll use our own example. So our assumption was people are willing to switch from PowerPoint. Another assumption was people are willing to pay for an alternative product to PowerPoint. Another assumption was people are willing to switch the way in which you usually build presentations for our new approach, which separates the content and the design. Just to name a few examples. Those are our assumptions. So our business is only successful if all of those assumptions are correct. But what you have to do is you have to take the riskiest of those assumptions. What's the riskiest assumption there? It is people willing to switch away from PowerPoint. That's the riskiest assumption, period. If they don't switch, they're obviously not going to pay. So that's what we did. That's what you ought to do. Pick the riskiest assumption of your business, and your MVP should have just enough features to test that assumption. Like I said, and try to, I don't want to say think out of the box here, but try to not go straight to, well, let's build a very basic product. There's other stuff that you can test. Our example with the explainer video on the landing page, that took us about a couple of weeks to build. And it tested that assumption. It tested whether strangers, people we don't know, people would come across this website that they've never heard of and are willing to sign up and use it, or willing to sign up, meaning they're planning on using it instead of PowerPoint. So really this whole process is just a row of MVPs, right? So you build an MVP, you validate that assumption. If your assumption was correct, then you build the next stage, and you take the next riskiest assumption and you build something that can validate it. Maybe you don't have to build anything new. You can just validate that assumption by going to a different type of user or putting a paywall on this thing. So that's really the evolution. It's this cycle of build, learn, measure that we use in the Lean Startup. Build something, measure its results, learn and kind of look at the data, understand if you were right or wrong about this assumption, and then repeat, rinse and repeat. In the end, the business wants to sell, right? So even signups, even website traffic, you could call those vanity metrics. They could potentially translate into sales, into revenue, but you don't know. So the idea here is validate if your product makes sense, if people are going to buy it, if people are willing to pay for it. That is the question. But that success in the end translates to revenue, and of course, for different businesses, that success might look very different. So I don't know if it's a device, if there's a device or a thing, physical thing is a system platform called the Lean Validation Board. You can look that up in Google. It's like a free download, and you can print it on your wall and use Post-its to manage it. It sort of lets you organize these riskiest assumptions and sort of decide like which one should come first. But beyond that, I think that the MVP, the process of building an MVP includes your ability to deliver on that MVP based on your team. Meaning, the team that you have in your startup, as you start the business, should be more than able to develop the MVP, more than able to build something that people would pay for. I like to think that the founders should have the ability to bring the first $100,000 of revenue for the company without without anybody else, without hiring any other talent. So you founders need to have the ability to build a product, market it, or sell it, depending on the product, and get it to market and make some money out of it without needing to hire anybody else. It doesn't count if you want to build a product and you want to build an MVP, but you don't have the tech skills to do it. If that's the case, then there should be a tech co-founder sitting next to you. Otherwise, this company is not going in a great direction.